everyone, welcome back to the life of T and M. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another one of my videos. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mary and I make videos all about nursing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure you do and follow my journey. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and watching this video. So as you could tell by the title, I am going to be going over the different roles and responsibilities, the pros and cons of a hospice case manager and a hospice admissions nurse. I have worked both roles before. Currently, I'm just an admission nurse, and I thought that it would be cool if I can just bring my thoughts, my experiences to my platform to let you guys know. Maybe you guys have the same question I did. Maybe you're in one role and you want to transition to a different role and you're kind of curious as to what it's like. So I hope you can get some tips from this video. Now, I recently became just an admission nurse last December, so it's been 13 months, and I absolutely enjoy it. And you will see by the end of this video which one I prefer. Do I miss the other role? Do I want to go back? So stay tuned all the way to the end of the video because I have a lot of tips and information that I want to go over. So first, let's go over schedule. Now, I know there's various schedules depending on what company you work for, where you work. I'm just gonna go over the ones that I have experience with. Most of the time, it is a case manager role is Monday through Friday, 8-hour shifts. I know there's salary, there's hourly, there's 12-hour shifts, there's on-call, I get that. But specifically, I'm just gonna make it real simple for what I have experience with and what I can speak to. So I'm just gonna start off with schedule. If you are a case manager, I'm gonna say Monday through Friday, 8-hour shifts, or an admission nurse, same thing, Monday through Friday, 8-hour shift. So your typical day as an admission nurse, 8 hours, I would say for you to end your shift on time, have good time management, and a good work-life balance, 2 admissions is key. If your company schedules them at the right time, you will be fine. If you're newer, of course, an admission may take you longer. If you're more seasoned, you may be faster. It also depends on the patient. So like I said, there's a lot of variables that go into this. But in the ideal world, I would say, as an admission nurse, 2 patients a day, 8-hour shift, I think is doable. An ideal day, say you start at 10 in the morning. Hopefully you would clock in. You may have an admission already waiting for you. Maybe you're waiting for intake to give you the admission. You would hope that you would receive it in enough time to read over the chart and prepare. You got to counter in travel time. And then the admission in itself, which can vary. An hour, 2 hours, depends on complications, family questions, is it a facility, etc. Once you get done with your admission, you are either going to chart bedside, go into a conference room, go into your car, finish charting, and then you may wait for your next patient. You may already have it lined up. In the event that you don't have it lined up, hopefully you have time to finish your charting and then get your next one. Ideally, say you're off at 6 p.m., you would not want an admission later than 4, because think about it, if you get an admission at 4 and you're off at 6, in 2 hours is not enough time. 1, to prep, to travel there, to do the admission, to chart, and to get home, you'll be working over. You would want to take your latest one at least by 2:30, so you have enough time to get through your admission process and be done with the day when your shift is over. Now, I know for a lot of people, that may sound like a dream. It may sound like, yeah, right, I'm gonna get one at 5 o'clock, I'm supposed to be off at 6, so I'm staying on the clock till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. That is not good work-life balance. And as a case manager, if you are working Monday through Friday, 8-hour shifts, you should have a caseload probably no bigger than 12 to 14. That would be ideal for you to be able to schedule your visits throughout the week. Make time for any new admissions you're gonna get, any supervisor visits you're gonna have to do with maybe an LVN or a home health aide, any patients that potentially will transition, any of those patients you have to increase their visit frequency. There's a myriad of factors. We will get into IDT, which I have a video on and I'll link up right here, and I'll also put it in my description, but there's a lot more responsibilities for a case manager. So you wanna make sure that you're able to not only see all of your patients and do all the other extra requirements that a case manager will be assigned throughout the week. So for me, I like the admissions schedule better. I'm only seeing potentially 1 to 2 patients a day, and almost every single shift I will get off at my scheduled end time. Number 2, let's get into charting. So with an admission, the charting is much lengthier. It takes more time. You are initially developing everything for the client so you can pass it on to a case manager, and it is just more in depth than a case manager. Now, a case manager, usually the visit note is much shorter, and you can probably chart maybe in 15 minutes to 20 minutes, maybe a little less, a little more, depending on the acuity of the patient and what happened at that visit. So pros and cons, of course, charting is much easier, I think, for a case manager than it is for an admission. So third, rapport with patients. As an admission nurse, you don't get to build that connection with families because you're not repeating your visits with them. You're not going back maybe once, twice, 3 times or more a week. It is just your initial visit with your family to set up the initial care plan, do your admission, and then you will never see that patient again. With a case manager role, you will probably build a connection based on how long you have them on your caseload, and you get to go back, and most of the time you meet their family, and most of the time it's a pleasant experience despite everything that is going on. And so if you are the type of person that likes that patient bond, and you like to build rapport with your patients, that may be the way to go. Not saying that you don't build that quick connection when you're an admission nurse, because you're there in a time of need and they have lots of questions and you're there as a resource. You don't have that long-term relationship with the patient. Okay, 4, procedures. So you may not do as many procedures when you're an admission nurse. You may assess their wounds. You will possibly do wound changes when you're there if needed. You will set up their DME if they have BiPAP. You will do very baseline procedures. Maybe they need a catheter change. Whatever is urgent and needed at your visit, you will do. And of course, you will assess and document so the case manager can continue that care, order the supplies, etc. As a case manager, because that is your patient going forward, you will continue if there is wound care, if they have any drainage tubes, if they develop a new maybe pressure ulcer, or they develop a sign and symptom that now leads to a procedure that's going to be needed ongoing. You will come more in contact with procedures as a case manager than you will as an admission nurse. 5th, IDT. So as an admission nurse, you do not go to IDTs. You will submit your admission note so that they have it at the first IDT meeting, but you do not have to write an IDT note every 2 weeks. You don't have to follow up after an IDT meeting. You don't have to do anything with IDTs. And if you have ever done IDTs, you may know that that is a plus. As a case manager, you do, right? It's the opposite. So you do have to go to IDT, you have to present the case, and you have to speak to declines. And like I said, I made a whole video on it, but you are the case manager, and so you're getting input from your team and really keeping your patient's care plan up to date. So IDTs for some can be dreadful. They are, of course, very helpful, definitely needed. But just as the case manager, you will be involved in those. Number 6. Care plans. So as an admission nurse, you do set up the initial care plan. Based on your assessment when you saw them, it is comprehensive. You have to make sure you have a care plan for every need of the patient. And so that does take a long time. Now, as a case manager, you're following up on the initial care plan, and of course, you're maybe discontinuing some of the goals that you had or adding some goals, and you always want to make sure you're updating that for your patient, but you don't have to do the initial one. Next, medications. So as an admission nurse, you are going to be doing medication reconciliation. You will be going over all of their existing meds, their past meds, those that are potentially going to be discontinued, any new medications, and you have to add all those in the chart. When you become a case manager, you're going to continually reassess those medications. You may potentially order new medications if there are new signs and symptoms. So I feel like medications, no matter what role you play, there's still a lot that goes on with medications. Up next, recertifications. So admission nurses usually do not do recertifications. They only do admissions. Case managers usually do recertifications, maybe at 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, based on the insurance or the policies at your facility. Recertifications will be needed. Next, discharges. So admission nurses don't deal with any type of discharges, but as a case manager, if your patient discharges for a myriad of reasons, there is paperwork that follows up with that, and there's a whole policy and procedure. So as a case manager, you will deal with discharges and making sure they are discharged correctly. Lot that goes into that. As an admission nurse, when you get done with admitting your patient, you are done with that patient. There is no more follow-up, and your hands are pretty much wiped clean and you're on to the next admission. As a case manager, anything that happens with your client, even when you're off the clock, you will have to follow up on. So if it's after hours and an on-call nurse goes out, you will be getting the follow-up note, and you will have to follow up with the client and the family and do whatever is necessary. So some people may feel as a case manager you're never off the clock because there's always maybe emails coming in about your patient. But you know, if you can set a boundary for yourself and turn that phone off, flip it upside down, don't look at your emails when you're off the clock and deal with it the next day, of course that's best. Some people feel like they've always got to keep up on a patient and see what's going on. And so it can be a lot because you know, you feel like you're responsible for them 24/7 because they are on your caseload. So that constant follow-up with patients can be a lot for some individuals, and some nurses just like to do the admission, one and done. Now the last thing I'll talk about, which I usually talk about in other videos, is setting your boundaries. I used to be really horrible at this and used to be an okay nurse, like, yeah, I can do that, I'll do that, I'll help you, I'll take that admission, I'll take that extra patient, right? But then I got really burnt out and I felt like I couldn't go on anymore. I didn't want to do this anymore. I just wanted to quit until I set boundaries for myself. When doing admissions, say you're working half day, you can only do one admission, you're working 4 hours. And at the end of the day, oh, you know, we have one patient, can we schedule it with you? Can you do it? I mean, you have to say no. If you say yes at the end of the day, now you're working over your time, right? So, and it's not just in hospice, it's in nursing in general. If you can set those healthy boundaries so that you really can start and end on your shift, it will be much more enjoyable. You will have a better work-life balance. And that's what I've come to find out after all these years, and it works well for me. And if they can't respect your boundaries, maybe that is not a company you want to work for. You may want to try a different company. Just because one company isn't working out doesn't mean you can't try another one. And what I always say is try what works for you. There are some nurses that can handle 16 patients. They can knock them out and get their charting done and their procedures, and they're off on time, and they don't mind if they work an hour or two after, and they'll pick up weekends, they'll pick up on call, etc. That is okay. And then there are some people who, you know, they have a caseload of maybe 12 and it's very overwhelming for them. It's brand new for them. They can't get their time management under wraps, and you know, maybe someone turns imminent and you're with them for a little bit longer, and there's just so many different factors that can just push you over the edge. And so you really have to take those into account. And if you're the type of person that, you know, gets overwhelmed, or hey, you just want to get off when you're supposed to get off, you don't want overtime, you want to go home, that's okay to set healthy boundaries. Now, if you are salary, a lot of what I said may not and cannot apply to you. If you get paid per visit or per patient, this may be a little different for you. If you're picking up on calls, or if you're on like 7 on, 7 off, there's a lot of different factors. Now, with all that being said, yes, my vote would be to be an admission nurse over a case manager. I like to be there at the time of admission, help them with all their needs, get them everything they need, and then I'm done. When I was a case manager, it was a lot. There was constant follow-up. I was working past my time sometimes with those patients that needed a little extra care, or I did have some patients' families that, you know, just wanted to talk, which was fine. But there was just more needed from me, I felt like. I felt like I was giving a lot more. I just feel like it was a lot more work as a case manager. And it was very rewarding. I did do it for about 1.5 years. But now that I've been strictly admissions, I love it. So I hope you guys learned something from this video, kind of some pros and cons that I've identified by working in both roles. And let me know down in the comments which one you like and which one you prefer. Well, if you guys have any other questions or have any other video ideas, put them down in the comments and I'll be sure to make more videos. And don't forget to check out my playlist. I have one for PHN, Public Health Nursing, one for Hospice Nursing, and just nursing in general. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.